Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm meadsyreplays. Welcome back to the channel. Now, one of my favorite tanks in the game has always been the FE4202. My all-time favorite is the Leopard 1. And I think my next favourite is the FE4202. And that's because of one reason. Well, actually a few reasons, but the main reason is that HESH gun. The HESH on a medium tank that does over 500 damage per shot, that has amazing penetration values for a medium tank is absolutely amazing. And with the speed of the tank, you're able to get behind tanks, you're able to get at the side of tanks and really pump up that DPM. If you're using HE, which you can HE almost anything, any sort of medium from the front, some heavies from the front, and basically any heavy from the side, and you can pump up your DPM. If you're just using HESH, you can pump up your DPM to well over 4,000, which is absolutely incredible for a tier 10 medium tank. It really is like one of the best for HESH. I mean, here you have the FV215B, sorry, you're able to HESH the bottom plate of that. So if you're able to get those HESH shots out, and I always say it is risky shooting the HESH, because if you do not penetrate properly, you can do sort of 5 damage to 10 to 20, sort of like that. But high risk, you get higher rewards. And obviously he's not going to use HESH for this Sheridan here, because as we know, it has spaced armor all around it apart from the front plate at the bottom, and that was a very juicy shot there, over 500 damage to the bottom plate of that guy. Now, Wargaming buffed this tank. They've buffed the speed of this tank, so I think it goes now sort of 60 kilometers per hour. I honestly don't think it needed the buff. I mean, even, yes, it's not as fast as some of the other tanks, but 50 kilometers an hour, I think it was fine as it is. Some people don't like the tank because it hasn't got that much armor. I mean, the front plate, the upper plate is much more stronger than the turret, and I think that's the only downfall with the tank, is the turret armor. The turret armor is not really fantastic. So I would have liked to have seen them keep the speed that it's at and maybe just buff the turret a little bit. That would have been absolutely amazing buff, and that would have made the tank really, really competitive and probably one of the best in tier 10. But it's only the best if you're using that HESH. Of course, Wargaming, with the HESH story, that it had this HESH gun, and then Wargaming sort of removed the HESH gun and gave it heat instead of HESH, because people weren't performing well in the tank. They didn't really know how to use the HESH, and of course, if you don't know how to use the HESH, then I wouldn't recommend this gun. And again, the downfall about the HESH gun is if you are facing a front of a heavy tank and you can't penetrate them, you can't switch to premium ammunition like heat or APCR or anything like that to pump up your penetration, unlike most other tanks. If you can't pen a tank, you switch to APCR or heat, and you'll be able to pen them a lot easier. It's a bit different with the FV4202, because the premium round is the HESH, which is lower pen values, but it's still higher pen values for HE, like massive pen values, and of course it does a nice amount of alpha as well. So the biggest downfall is that turret. And I always say it with these tanks, if you don't know really how to use the HESH, or if you don't really perform well in the HESH, then just take the heat gun. But using the heat gun just takes the uniqueness sort of away from the tank, and it just makes it any other medium tank in tier 10. With the HESH, it just makes it different. Obviously, there are only British tanks with the HESH. There's only a few other tanks like the Charioteer line, the Conway, etc., and obviously the Death Star, which everyone knows. So having a medium tank with the same sort of HESH values as the big guns is absolutely amazing. As you can see here, that is a well armored VK. Pen, it's like butter, absolutely butter from the side, and that is what I love. You always have to try, you always have to use the mobility of the tank to get around the tank to use that HESH, because you want to be doing as much damage with that HESH as you possibly can. Now, Wargaming buffed it to go 60 kilometers an hour. Like, I don't understand why they buffed it to go 60, but you know, any buff towards these tanks is welcoming. Any buff I would welcome to any of the tanks that I like. Leopard 1, give it a turret buff. Why not? Because it's an amazing tank. So it is unfortunate, like a lot of people I speak to don't really like the FV4202. Whether that's the HESH, whether that's because of the turret's quite weak, I really don't know, but the FV4202 is a really, really good tank, and if you know how to use the HESH, I would definitely purchase this tank or grind the tank, because it is a fun tank to play when everything goes your way. Of course, you're going to have some battles where RNG is just not on your side and you just can't pen anything. But along with the FV4202 getting the speed buff, there was the tank, the Centurion 7-1. Now, this got the same buff. It has the exact same gun as the FV4202, the exact same gun. It's the same HESH values, and it is a tier lower. Now, the only downfall with this tank was the speed. That's why I preferred the FV4202. Although this tank has a turret, it has an extremely strong turret, and when you're facing tier 8 in this tank with that HESH, absolutely amazing. And Wargaming have now gave it 10 kilometers an hour, so it now goes, I think, 50 kilometers an hour. That now is probably going to be one of my favorite medium tanks in the game. This is going to be more favorable for me to play than the FV4202, which has always been my second favorite tank in the game. I don't think anything's going to outweigh the Leopard, because I just absolutely adore the Leopard 1. But now the Centurion 7-1 is absolutely going to be up there, and when you're against tier 8, you can literally penetrate anything with HESH. Absolutely anything. There's a T30 there. Look at that bottom plate. No problem whatsoever with HESH. And that is the thing with this tank. When you're up against tier 10, it is the exact same as the FV4202. You can penetrate mediums, you can penetrate heavies and TDs, anything. When you're up against tier 8 in the thing, I mean, look at that. HESH shot into the turret of the T30, no problem whatsoever. And when you're dishing out that HESH, then, I mean, look at the damage so far, 2.4k damage in just over a minute. And you can really pump up that DPM. And sometimes you can't quite, like, you look at the damage, like, how have I got that much damage in so little of time? And that is because of that HESH. Tank like this, I mean, look at that, just, you can penetrate it anywhere. That was a bit of a low roll on that AMX, but you can penetrate it anywhere. And when I'm going to go as far as to say that now, when you're in tier for tier, this is probably one of the best tanks in the game, because of that HESH, and now because of the speed, because of the turret. Everything about this tank now is absolutely amazing, apart from that shot there with the Object 704. But he is going to make the mistake. He goes for the ram, completely misses him, gets himself now in. Look at that, we can penetrate him anywhere, absolutely anywhere, and we do manage to help take him out. And before you know it, there's just 2 tanks left, 2.5 minutes gone. We've managed to farm up sort of 4k damage here. Very easy battle, and we're just going to take out this this waffle here. 443 alpha into this guy, and like I said, you can get it up to 575 as a high roll for a medium tank. Is incredible. So I think this is going to be one of my top favorite tanks in the game now, because of that speed. This was the only reason I didn't really like playing the tank, because it was just a bit too slow for me. But now it has that speed, it is going to be amazing. So I hope you enjoyed it, guys. Let me know your thoughts on the tank in the comments below. Get subscribing, get liking, and get sharing. I'm Meadsy, and I'll catch you all soon. Bye bye.